All right, everybody. Hello. We are all tripping on into the meeting room. So I am doing some clicking here, letting everybody get on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi. Hope you're getting settled in. I hope you're ready with your notepad and your pen or whatever it is that you take notes with. And still admitting folks as they come in. I'll be doing that as we go along. So if you hear clicking and see this happening on the application, you'll know why. So, all right. Welcome all you numerology lovers and soul seekers. I just feel like we are in a beautiful space to do this. I've already lit my candle in here. So, all right, we're getting everyone admitted. All right. All right. All righty. It's very strange. It's kind of giving me. All right, here we go. I've got the chat going on here. I've got, all right, here we go. Everyone's joining. Thank you, everyone in the chat. This was a long, lingering intro. Sorry about that. Boy, it's just, the technology is just, I'm having to pay a little bit more attention to it here. All right. So again, I'll be clicking as I go, but what I wanted to do is welcome everybody. It is Felicia Bender, the practical numerologist. It would be a little strange if you didn't know that, but I wanted to introduce myself anyway. And what I will also say is I would like to, there we go. And I'm shutting the chat. So I'll do a little bit of housekeeping to start out with, which just basically lets you know what we're doing. Okay, so first of all, our agenda is pretty clear, but I want to say it anyway. I just want to make sure everyone knows that our agenda is that we are looking at the 9 universal year that is going to affect all of us globally. And then we're also going to be looking at your personal year, because I find it's all well and good to understand the landscape that we're going to be in, that container that we are going to be participating in, right? And yet we always are also very concerned about, but what about me right here, right now? What's happening in my personal world and how can I optimize it, right? So I'm going to say up front that I want to really keep in mind that when we're dealing with numerology, as I think everyone realizes, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, we're always talking about the optimal, but we're always going to be dealing with the oppositional pole here and the opposition to it. And I think as we enter a 9 universal year, that is pretty profound. Just saying, it's a little more profound feeling, at least to me. I don't know if it is to you, but to me it is. So what I will say is that in terms of housekeeping, I am here managing the technology here by myself. What I would like to say is if there's any technical issues, would you unmute yourself and let me know? You wouldn't be rude if you were to do that, if you were to tell me that you couldn't hear me, you couldn't see me, something of that nature, because as you know, on these meetings, what I'm seeing is not necessarily what you're seeing, and vice versa. All right. So, with that said, we are going to do this presentation. I anticipate it lasting for about an hour, maybe a little bit longer, and then I'm going to stop sharing the screen and get us all on screen, okay, so that we can talk. I would love to field your questions. and just have some conversations about your, I don't know, questions, concerns, comments, all of that toward the end of this presentation. And I'm anticipating 90 minutes total, and I want to respect your time and be very on time with that. So 90 minutes, we're in, we are out after that. All right. So as let's get going. Let's move along. And you've got the agenda. Oh, one more thing. You will not, it will not be rude if you're on the chat and chat with each other as we go through this. I can't hear, I can't see it, but it's wonderful to be in this community so that you can have this kind of support in these kind of conversations with people who are like-minded. That's why we're all here. So introduce yourself, share your life path, maybe where you're calling in from, anything of that nature, and feel free, please, to do that as the presentation goes on. All right, so here we are, the agenda, 9 universal year and the personal year. So just to let you know, if you don't know, but I'm thinking if you're here, we all need refreshers. So a universal year is a year that everyone on the planet is going to be feeling the energy of this universal year. And it's going to be the particular number in numerology that is going to resonate and offer support and guidance throughout the entire year. And this runs January 1st through December 31st of the year. And what I will say as a reminder is that 2024 that we're still in, you can feel it. It's an 8, right? And the 8 is what? It's about power, money, control, authority, all of those very real world issues. And I will always say that when we're experiencing the 8 in a cycle, as we are right now, that we it's the beginning of a 3-year transition cycle. It is a 3-year cycle that we are all dealing with. And so I'm wondering if, there we go. I'm hoping that I couldn't see me there on the screen, and I'm hoping that you all can see me. So anyway, I'm going to allow, yes, you can unmute yourself if I'm not on screen and you can't see me. Sorry about the wobbles, but I think that you'll be okay with me. All right. So the 8 universal year, this is really the beginning of a massive transition cycle, everyone. Don't we all know it? Any of you who are astrologically inclined, numerologically inclined, spiritually inclined in any way, that you've been looking at the spiritual predictions of what is going on planet Earth, it's a pretty intense time. I'm just going to put an understatement in there. It's a very intense time that we're experiencing. So sometimes it's nice just to know that it's not just you and you're not just making it up, right? So this is a power year that we're in right now and that we're leaving. Now we are going to be going into the 9 universal year. And how do we calculate that? We take very easy 2025, and we take 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, and that equals 9. So we're entering a 9 universal year. All right. So what does that mean? To me, it's always really good to just keep thinking about it in terms of global. It is a global energy. It's a global mandate. It's a global calling. So I always look to politics. I always look to what globally and country to country, what are the key concerns that are being voiced by all of us collectively. And that is going to be what we're speaking to when we are looking at the resonance of the 9 personal year. So the key themes right now is that this is the end of a cycle, right? This is an ending. So the tide is out rather than in. And it's a really interesting thing, right? Because this is not a year in 2025 where things are really going to be ramping up. Now they're going to be ramping up. Well, they are going to be ramping up. They're not going to be starting, right? It's just going to be this cacophony as we can feel it already, and it already is. It's just putting everything on the table, right? And everything is up for review. Again, tide is out rather than in. It is all about optimally, okay, optimally letting go of what's no longer working or no longer viable. When a nine comes into the picture, it's all about a higher spiritual practice of presence, of letting go, of that understanding the impermanence of all things, and all of these other lofty things that we will continue to talk about as we talk about the nine. It's going to be all about finalizing what has run its course, right? And it is a return optimally to compassion, to empathy, and universal spiritual principles. I put double question marks there because this is an ultimate goal. But remember, in terms of an ultimate goal, that we're going to have to go walk and talk through these shadows, right? Um, we're going to have to do some confrontation. And that I feel is what we have in store for us very definitely during 2025. It is a confrontation and about where our values lie globally as a humanity, because the nine is the number of humanity. So ostensibly, we are going to be asked
Number of humanity.
oh,
That's interesting.
oh, sorry. I need to ask everyone to mute, please. Oh, thank you. So if we focus on a collective and humanitarian viewpoint, again, that is optimally what we're being asked to do. Now we're struggling with that, and we will continue to struggle. Sorry, spoiler alert. But the struggle is
Hello?
real, and it will continue.
Hello?
All right, here we go. There we are. All right, sorry, doing some muting. Okay, so now we're going to look at some key challenge.
Felicia.
Pardon me? Hello? Okay, I need to ask everyone to mute, please. I'm just hearing some voices. All right, thank you. So the key challenges here are going to be with blazing through with the same agenda, right? If we think that we need to go back to something, that we need to have business as usual, that's not going to happen. So the tighter we cling to that, numerologically speaking, the harder it is, and the more painful it is, because this is a time to release the old ways of doing things and to begin to reimagine some new systems and new ways of doing things. So it's all about reaching the challenge here also is going to reside in reaching for answers and control when we actually need to relinquish that. I know it sounds oxymoronic, and it is. It's this time where we're asked to experience this more liminal state of being for a moment. What and ask ourselves the very true question of what if the knowing is in the not knowing? Right? So what if the knowing is in the not knowing, and being in this place of dissolution, and not being reactive to that. Okay. Again, when the nine shows up, it is pushing our spiritual progress, right? It is really pushing our spiritual evolution. So as a global community, one of the challenges is in adhering to outdated and destructive values, policies, structures, all that goes with that. It's a challenge is in instilling fear and ideology that supports that more divide and conquer mentality and agenda. We see that happening very clearly in the wars we're experiencing in the US election, all of the other political things and global crises that we are experiencing again as a whole. One of the challenges here is in not taking the time to evaluate the consequences of egomaniacal self-interest, because the opposite of the 9 is the ego. Plain and simple. That is the opposite. The 9 is not that ultimately. All right. So if we had one theme, one mantra for our 9, it is that old ways won't open new doors. And I think that we can really all begin to digest that sentence, because it is truly what we are being asked to grapple with in the coming years, and particularly this upcoming year in 2025. So the 9 is the number of universal wisdom. Okay, and so many numerologists have also called this the number of the brotherhood of man. I'm not as much of a fan of that as I am as the 9 is the number of universal wisdom. But once again, this is going to be an overarching, blanketing thematic that we are all working with globally as we head into 2025. All right, so what could we say that are some major themes, some little pockets of thematics that we'll look at? And the first one is that the 9 is asking us always to let it go, to let it go. There's an invitation toward forgiveness, towards selfless service, humanitarian approaches during the 9 universal year. Once again, letting go also is a very difficult thing for humans to do, and we're always going to be afraid of change, first of all, and we're always also going to cling or hold, or just hold very, very tightly, hold on for dear life, right, to what we know, even if what we know is not positive, nor and it's disintegrating in front of our eyes. We will still, I believe, collectively cling on to that. So what the second kind of theme here is, what is in the best interest of the collective? That is a question that we're being asked to answer. The 9 is the number of loss. So I expect that there are and continue, and this is a continuing thread, but there are losses that people individually, collectively are experiencing right now. It is the number of limited remuneration, which means limited rewards. The 9 is all about doing what you're doing for the greater good, not for individual or personal gain. It doesn't mean that the individual or person or the individual, or if we look at it more as, again, as we are right now, putting it into the collective, if we collectively do things for the greater good, ultimately the energy of the 9 promises that that will be rewarded. It's just not that is the driver for doing that. We want this for us, right? If we do it for everyone, everyone will get their fair share. That's the idea around the 9 when the 9 shows up here. So it's bringing in some deep spiritual rewards that are based on leading with the heart and with a passionate and compassionate purpose behind it. So another theme here is knowledge, followed up with right action, is power. All right. So it's not passive. A lot of people think about the nine as a very passive energy. It's just, oh, I just have to sit around and wait for things to happen or anything like that. No, that is not the case. It is a necessary time for growth, and yet it's like fall, it's like winter. It's time to kind of cut back that overgrowth, clean up, evaluate the soil, and let it lay fallow until springtime. But there's a lot of activity there, right? There's a lot of things to be doing to prep for this, to make room for it, to clear things out. And yet, mixed in with that, it is very much a time of reflection. It is a pivotal moment, I feel, and I think many of us feel, for planet Earth overall. So it is, I'm borrowing this quote from a wonderful numerologist, Dr. Juno Jordan. If you are numerologically inclined, which you seem to be, because here you are, she has some wonderful books, and I would strongly suggest looking her up, Dr. Juno Jordan. And she talks about this concept of developing the right state of mind. She usually talks about it in terms of the number seven. And I think that we are being asked to fold in the higher spiritual principles of the seven along with the nine. If we remember, the nine in numerology is a container for all of the energies of and all of the themes and all of the purposeful pathways that each number carries. So I feel like sometimes when the nine shows up, we get to kind of tweak the energy within that container of the nine that might be particularly influential when we're for the year or for let me say, well, let me just back into that and say I feel like a lot of the energy of the seven is going to be imbued in the nine that we're having this year as the universal energy. Because is it any surprise that you are here? You and me and all of us are here, and we are focused on healing ourselves, on healing humanity, on moving forward in this compassionate way that is all about humanity. I know it sounds a little corny, but it isn't. It really isn't. And I feel like one of the things that is coming in right now very, very strongly is that it all starts with each of us individually. I think it can be very, very overwhelming and blaming and victimizing and finger pointing when we're, have this barrage of all of these things that are happening in our world, on a global scale. And so how do we manage that? How can we not fall into, deep despair? How can we manage to feel as though we're on purpose, that we're doing something useful within this? And I feel that it comes down to each of us individually cleaning up our act, doing our own healing, doing the things that make us individually able to come to a collective table in a healthy, healed way. So I think that's something that we could really, really hang on to in a nine universal year where it will all feel very out of control. And it will be. So we have to come to terms with that level of uncertainty and figure out how we, each of us, are going to manage that in a positive way for ourselves. And I would say that very much so, I don't know, some suggestions. I usually don't do this, but I would say some good mind, body, and spirit food for 2025 in terms of books. I'm just looking at books, but there are videos, there are courses, there are all kinds of tools out there that we can use. But I would say, just as a small sampling of some food that all of us could nourish ourselves with this upcoming year and always, is A New Earth: Awakening Your Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle. I think he's speaking very directly to our time and place that we are dealing with right now in this transitional ascension time that we find ourselves in. Also, The Three Waves of Volunteers and The New Earth by Dolores Cannon. That is also, they're speaking, basically about the same thing, just from a different lens and a different point of view. I would say also just focusing on practicing modalities for self-healing. I'm finding a lot of people are, upping their game in terms of dealing with their own with their own issues in whatever way, whether it's from talk therapy to doing somatic therapies, to energy work, to, I mean, you name it, right? But when we involve ourselves in that in our personal journey, it emanates out into everything and everyone and onto the planet. So it's also a time where getting curious about family systems work. I'm finding this is really coming up with clients that I'm having and in my own personal life. And just across the board, this seems to be a very a nucleus to the healing that we all need to do has to do with family systems work. And this is, and if you've never heard of it, this will be news to you. And if you have, this won't be, but we all are practicing or can continue to practice this. Some of the books that would be good resources include, but are not limited to It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin, No Bad Parts by Richard C. Schwartz, and The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I'm also a big fan of Dr. Gabor Mate, who does a lot of extensive research. I know he's not the only one. There are many other people out there doing all kinds of very interesting research about trauma, about all of these other aspects that I feel we are individually working on because we need to do this collectively, truly. So those are a few examples of some nourishing spiritual mind, body, spirit food for all of us as we head into this very tumultuous um, very tumultuous and yet very, um, promising transition. There's a lot of positive to be gleaned here, and yet we've got to go from point A to point Z to get there. And just saying that the nine never brings in comfort. It's not ever going to hand you your comfort zone. Because we never grow when we're comfortable. That is never where we evolve. And so we are all going to be pretty uncomfortable, I think, this year coming into 2025. So now let's look at the personal year. And we'll start pulling these threads together, all right? We'll start seeing where you are going to be personally and how that might engage with this overall energy, the overarching energy of the nine of the universal year. So, as a reminder here, the personal year cycle is in numerology. We believe we go through 9-year cycles, birth to death, and it's like knowing the theme to your party. That's what I always say it is. It's an energy. We're all feeling it, whether we know it or not, whether we believe in it or not, and yet it is going to offer us different opportunities and different resonances for us to use to make our lives more successful and more purposeful. And it's really great to know the theme and what is really going on so that you can optimize that and then also understand what's not being supported or what you're being challenged with during these times. All right. So the personal year cycle is a 9-year cycle, just like the universal year, only it's the more immediately attached to what you are experiencing because it comes from your birth date. All right. So this is where it gets a little sticky, all right? So stick with me on it because I've always been a numerologist who talks about different schools of thought. Recently, I think in the past year, year and a half, I've just been getting a lot more clients who feel that that the second school of thought in numerology regarding the personal year resonates more for them. All right. So, what I want to say is this. I've always talked about two schools of thought around the personal year. I'm just going to dig down a little bit more clearly about it. All right. So, the first school of thought, which is the most common one, is that the personal year runs from January 1st through December 31st of a given year. It's going to intensify around your birthday and it peaks in September. All right. So that's the flow of that way of thinking about the personal year. Now, there is another school of thought that if you're astrologically inclined, this might make more sense to you. It's more like a solar return in astrology. And yet, numerologically, this would be your personal year, and it would run from your birthday to your birthday. All right. All right. So now, let's do the calculations and kind of get our brain wrapped around how that might work. All right. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I think it's important. So the easy calculation year to year is that you add the day of your birthday, or if you want to know this about somebody else, that, use theirs. But if this is for you, you take your birthday and you add the day of your birth, the month of your birth, and the current year. Of course, if you want to know what the personal year is going to be for you 10 years from now, you could use that year. If you want, hey, well, what was my personal year in 2012? Use 2012 and it will tell you that. All right. So, but if you're looking at right here, right now, you want to look at the current year to see what your personal year might be. So the easy calculation for the birthday to birthday is to add the day and the month and the year of your last birthday. Okay. So just pause for a moment and go, okay, so my personal year would be if my birthday, like my birthday is July 22nd. So my last birthday was July 22nd. And so if I were using this mode of calculation, I would go, okay, my personal year is going to be my day, my month, and then the 8, which was for 2024, because that is of my last birthday. Now, when I hit July 22nd in 2025, it'll switch over to the next personal year. Okay. I know it sounds a little convoluted, and yet when it finally clicks with you, it'll click. So the quick example from year to year, if your birthday is April 16th, 2002, you're not going to use 2002, but you're going to use the month and the day in the current year. So the month of April is 4. The 16th, we're going to add 1 plus 6 together. We're always reducing to a one-digit number here. So that's a 7. And then the current year, which we would say if we're looking at 2025, is a number 9. We add all that together, that equals 20, and then we're going to continue to reduce. 2 plus 0 equals 2. So in this example, you would be experiencing a 2 personal year. All right. If we go birthday to birthday, same example, we're going to use the last birthday year, which would be a number 8 because that was 2024. So with that, it would be 4 plus 7 plus 8. That equals 19. 1 plus 9 equals 10. This is a great example because sometimes that's confusing because we're like, well, I got a 10. Like now you continue, you keep on reducing. Sometimes you have to go three rounds. Okay. So 1 plus 0 equals 1. So in this example, you would be in a 1 personal year until from 2024. And right now, right here, right now, you'd still be in that 1 personal year until April 16th of 2025. Then you're switching on that date over into a 2 personal year. All right. It's a little wonkier and it can feel a little more, I don't know if that's the right word, but chaotic. And yet, for a lot of people, they feel that is more accurate for them. And what I would say is, you're going to go, well, Felicia, which one's right? And I'll say, that is truly up to each of us individually. We have to decide what feels right. Like I just shared that my birthday is July 22nd. Some astrologers feel I'm a Cancer, and some feel I'm a Leo. And so, which one is right? That's kind of my call, right? I have to decide which one feels right to me and which one I'm going to adhere to. Very same thing with this, okay? So I hope that makes some sense. If it doesn't, we can do some Q&A at the end. And I've put this slide on as well as an example. I'm not going to linger on it. I'm leaving this here for the replay, and also this is available on my website. If you go to the monthly forecast, you can see this here and take a look at it in more detail. But it maps it out, I hope, as clearly as possible. All right, now we're getting down to it. We're going to talk about the personal year cycle. And just because I think we need some lightness and levity and some fur babies, we're using my daughter's dogs over here to lighten the mood. And this is Oliver, and he is large and in charge. I'm saying if he was in a one personal year, this would be what all of you in your one personal year should be doing. It's a high-powered year marked by determination, initiative, by your feelings of independence and your unique voice, all of those things. So if you're in a one personal year, it is a year of new beginnings. It's a year of planting seeds. All the things that you let go of in your nine personal year the year before are now, in the incinerator, hopefully. And now you're kind of regrouping and getting your bearings and figuring out really what it is you want to see bloom and grow in the next 9 years, basically. So the goal here is to stand on your own 2 feet as you begin an entirely new chapter of your life. So how might this collude and collide with this 9 universal year? So 9 universal year with the one personal year. Well, I would just say, talk about tension. The world is kind of dissolving. It's in that 9. It's in that state of dissolution, of disarray, of lacking any sense of coherence and all of that. So that's happening all around you. And yet, your mandate for the year is to kind of get it together and get focused and get some level of clarity about where you want to take your individual life this year and the seed planting year is a very important time. So how is this going to mix and match, right, with this energy that we're with? And I don't want to overstate it, but I don't think I really can. It is not business as usual for any of us. This is a very substantial cycle of shifting and changing that we are going through. And I think that we need to remind ourselves that even on our, even and especially on our individual, in our individual lives, that is going to be reflected. It is going to be imbued in what it is we are thinking, feeling, pursuing, what our opportunities are, what our values are. All of those things are going to be up close and personal. So it's a very kind of interesting time for you if you're in a one, because the upside here is that it can be a true reset for you this year. I mean, really. And what I mean to say here is that in its most authentic way. And one of the things that's coming to my mind right now is I love what Dr. Gabor Mate says about when we experience illness or when we experience something, that's not working for us in our life. It is a reminder for us to step back and regain our sense of personal agency. And if we think about that, it's that it is so in tune with the energy of the 9 universal year. What is our personal agency? Who are we truly and authentically? And oftentimes that has been denied, lost, covered up, masked, denied, detoured, all of those things. And that is what we are working on and working with. So it's a beautiful opportunity for those of you in your one for a true reset. The challenge here is that you'll be challenged to keep that bigger picture in mind and not feel discouraged, right? You're tapping into your independent spirit. You can often feel like you're kind of going it alone anyway in your one personal year. So make sure that you reach out and make sure that you get your community and your support in line this year. Most definitely, I would say that is going to be a key feature for you to feel successful in the one personal year during a 9 universal. Did I say personal universal? I hope I said that correctly. So, all right, the 2 personal year. All right, this is a slower year, and it is focused on true relationship development during a 2. This little guy over here, just to introduce you, this is Oscar, and he's a wire-haired fox terrier. And I just thought that that little look on his face and his little paws were very representative of the energy of the 2 personal year. It's about patience, it's about love, it's about networking. It's really meant to be a rest. You've been in a kicker of a 3-year transition cycle, those of you who are going to be in your 2 personal year. And to say that you could be absolutely fatigued and exhausted is probably an understatement. So I would say that this is your time to give yourself permission to rest a little bit, to recuperate, to, maybe even lick your wounds a little bit. It's going to be more focused on the us rather than me. The last 3 years have been very me focused, the 8, the 9, the 1. And now it's going to be more about looking out looking at us. Like, how do you relate in the us and the collective, whether that's your intimate partnership, kids, friends, family, colleagues, all of those things. The question here is, how do I want to love and how do I want to be loved in return? And that is a significant thing that you're going to be tested with this year in terms of really stepping into it's an interesting dynamic because I find that in the 1 personal year, you're defining your sense of independence. And in a 2 personal year, you're taking that thread and actually really galvanizing that in terms of really, who am I? What do I want? How do I define myself? And how do I have more emotional, energetic, healthy boundaries? And how do I really identify who I am? It sounds a little corny, but I would ask you, do you know either yourself or a lot of people who don't even know, where they would like to go out to dinner? They always defer to somebody else, right? Or something of that nature. It's as feet on the ground as that practical. It's like, what do I like? What do I, and what are my deal breakers? And all of those things begin to come up in a 2 personal year. The goal here is to clarify your emotional boundaries and to also focus on your relationships during this time. All right. So in a 9 universal year, in a 2, yes, a 9 universal year and a 2 personal year. What's going to happen here? The walls are going to come tumbling down. Lots of really grand opportunities to reinvent yourself from the inside out with a focus on your closest connections and your most intimate relationships. So the upside here is that there are amazing rewards for doing the work. You can refer back to that list that we just shared a few moments ago about family dynamics, about healing your own trauma, about looking at your attachment style. All of these things can be very, very valuable and important for you during a two personal year. The challenge can be that you're feeling even more sensitive than usual if you're a sensitive soul, and usually if you're dealing with numerology and other tools like this, you are an empath, you are a sensitive, so you're going to feel that even more. So it's going to ask you to discipline that this year, to really discipline that and to become more of an observer of your responses and respond rather than react. So those are two entirely different things, and you'll get to have a lot of practice with that during a two personal year, because usually conflicts and other things come up and come into your world, having to do with family, having to do with your marriage if you are married or in a relationship, or anything having to do with those close, intimate ties. It's asking you to really up level that, or and really work on your ability to make that healthy dynamic and to take care of yourself and have good boundaries. All right. So you can also experience a master number 11 personal year. So this is kind of that hurry up and wait of the two, mixed with the action of the double one. So whenever we're talking about those master numbers, think about it as one part two. That's the single digit, and then a double dose of the double one in this case, right? So it's a little bit of a, dynamic tension there. It's about patience, love, and networking, plus the spiritual illumination. The 11 is the number of spiritual illumination, and it is by no chance that today is the day I chose to do this presentation and to have this time with you, because it is 11/11. And it is an energetic window. It is a portal. It is the energy today is really supporting us in looking at these at these tools, at really setting our mind around these positive feelings, this positive information, the insightful information, and using that accordingly. So the 11/11 is always a time to really get clear about your intentions and take some right action around making that manifest and making that happen. So it's really wonderful. I think that we're here collectively focused on these higher level, higher level thoughts about the insight about what we're all going through on a deep level. So for the 11/2, it's also, the question here is, how do I want to love and how do I want to be loved in return? And then that 11 kicks it into, and how do I put higher ideals into practice? All right. Um, so again, think of it as one part two and two parts one. And Owen the dog's over here. That is Oliver, that you saw on the first slide for the one personal year, and his buddy Rio. So that is Rio next to him. All right, the 9 universal year with the 11/2 personal year. This is a supercharged time for you. There is no doubt about it. Get ready. Get some grounding, some of those grounding sheets or whatever, or grounding shoe things that you put in your shoes. You got to stay grounded because there's a lot of energy going on with that 11/2 personal year. If you're already on a spiritual path, this is an amazing year for practice, practice, more practice. Lots of insight can come in again, but it's not necessarily going to be easy and or comfortable. And yet if you are ready for it and ready to act on it, this can be an incredibly powerful year for you. from relationships to your personal spiritual growth, to job and career, all of it. It's just a matter of also understanding that you're going to have some delays, some frustrations, but it's all about timing. So keep in mind when those things are happening and it seems like nothing is happening, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And just have that trust in that and just put your focus on being present. That is going to be a wonderful exercise for you in an 11-2 personal year. So the upside is you're going to feel like that proverbial satellite dish, and that's the same downside. You're going to feel like a proverbial satellite dish. So you've got to keep your, if you're a sensitive, very much about being much more intentional about your psychic and energetic protection, good reminders about healthy emotional boundaries. All of those things are really going to be calling you in an 11-2 personal year. All right, we've got Oscar back here, and he's going to talk to us about the 3 personal year. This is a time to express yourself, to find your joy. The 3 is all about creative self-expression and emotional sensitivity. The year is set up as a time for self-improvement, with a highlight around communication and creativity and also emotional current. All right. So the question here is, how can I improve myself on every level? And this is going to be, going back to Dr. Mate, this is about agency. Where have you lost your agency? And where can you pick it back up again and recognize it, develop it, and become, and be that, rather than whatever it is that is not true to you. That is a big thing to ponder and to work with in a 3 personal year. So it's not so much about self-improvement as it is about excavating all the crap that has gotten in the way of you being that, right? So it's never left. It's just usually piled. There's a lot of stuff piled on top of it. So the goal here is to find your voice, to give yourself permission to create and enjoy yourself. And that will propel you in ways that you can't even understand. A lot of times people who are type A kind of squirm with this because they think if it's fun, it's not worth doing, right? And yet this is going to ask you to imbue everything you do with your creative problem solving, with your fun, with some pleasure, and see that it is going to be much more effective than it could have been if you were just taking it all so seriously. So 9 universal year with the 3 personal year, it is a time to express yourself and use that for the good of all. It is an amazing year to find your voice and to use it. A lot of you are feeling very politically activated or motivated, or if we don't want to use the term politically, being more active in your community, whatever that means to you. Those sorts of things are very much highlighted this year for year 3. It is a great time for anything. If you're actually an artist, if you are a communicator, a writer, and anything having to do with the written and spoken word, this is a fantastic year for you to really take the time and to give yourself that golden ticket to produce that content. Next year will be implementation time, but this time create, create, create. Always create in a 3 personal year. The upside is you'll feel that surge of creativity, so don't put a damper on it. And the challenge here is you'll feel all the feels, right? You're going to feel all the feelings. So it's a great time for some therapy. I don't mean to keep going back to therapy, but it really is a good time for therapy having to do with any and all emotional trauma, and none of us are immune from that. Everyone has it, so it's a time to kind of look at some of those things and use that as a source of your communication and artistic expression and relationship connectivity that you can have in a 3 personal year. All right, 4 personal year. We've got after that kind of buoyant 3 personal year, we've got a slower, more serious year. It's that slow and steady wins the race. It's a time to define your goals, to set up systems. It's all about hard work, limiting circumstances, longer range goals. It kind of sounds bad, but it really isn't. It's a beautiful time to really get organized, to really get your life's business plan on the table and look and see if it's still anything that you feel is valid, right? It's the 4 is the number of foundations. It's about home. It's about where you feel anchored and secure and solid and stable and have a sense of stability. So all of those themes are going to be up close and personal with you this year. It's all about what are my longer range goals? How can I implement them? There's going to be some, mud thrown in your spokes, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. It's about having that tenacious vision and going about it, right? 4 is also the number of health. It's not the number of bad health, okay? Don't mishear me. It is the number of health, because when the 4 shows up, it's always bringing in that hardworking energy at the expense of other things. So what I will always say in a 4 personal year is absolutely take time for relaxation, for lighter things. Put it in your calendar, because otherwise it's, burnout is guaranteed if you don't. And it's a matter of, again, taking care of the balance of your of all aspects of your health. All right. So the goal is to get organized, set some firm foundations that make your life easier, satisfying, and more productive during a 4 personal year. So 9 universal year plus the 4 personal year. It's a little bit tricky. I find you're being called to get clear about your life goals, and yet that can be really difficult when you're standing on all this shifting sand that we're on. So it can feel very frustrating. And just giving you a little bit of a spoiler alert there, but don't be detoured or and don't be, I don't know, don't get down about it. Just understand that that the things that you're doing are setting a foundation for you for, again, the next 5 years and beyond. And it's not that things can't move around, but to have that in front of you is going to be the key. This could be a time where you actually move house, where you move geographically, where you do some remodeling. Anything having to do with the home, house, where you feel at home is highlighted during this year as well. The upside is you're going to feel this sense of resolve to get it done and get down to it. And the challenge can be that the world events can distract you from what's in front of you and make you feel discouraged. And I would just say, just be steady. Just slow and steady wins that race. So if you're in a master number 22 for personal year, it is a time to define those goals, set up the systems, time to take on your bigger dreams, okay? So the 22-4 in numerology is the master builder. It's the master systems builder, and also the master teacher and teacher of teachers. So it's going to be this really interesting mix of hard work, longer range goals, and yet there's also a spiritual focus and spiritual advancement that comes in a 22 personal year. So the question here is, what am I building? What am I creating that has long range potential and is is reflective of my spiritual mission? That is really going to be pushing you this year. Again, 2 parts 2 and 1 part 4. So go back to those things and go, ooh, it's going to be relationships, patience, all of that of the 2, and then also the hardworking tenaciousness of the 4. All right. And I would just say this 9 universal year, 22-4 personal year combo is just a lot. It's just a lot to manage. So just get your, breathing, get a lot of your breathing meditations on, on your list to be helping you and supporting you this year. So if there's ever been a year to devote yourself to your spiritual contribution on this material realm, this is it. I mean, it is really going to be pushing you into going, if not now, when? So it's a if not now, when year for you. The upside, if you've been on the fence about any higher sense of purpose that you want to act upon, you'll have new resolve around that and new tools and new ways to think about implementing that. And let's face it, the challenge is that it can feel serious and heavy, and that's going to be something that you can absolutely breathe through and move through. All right. Here we go. Oscar is being very come hither, with his 5 personal year stare there. This is a very 5 personal year thing that he's doing. It's very sensuous, that 5 personal year. It's all about fun, fearlessness, adventure. It's a year for sensual experience. The themes here: freedom, change, and facing fears. So it's all about, what does freedom look and feel like to me, and how do I create more of it in my life, right? That is what this year is all about. It can feel a little bit like a roller coaster, lots of new things, new stuff, new blah, 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 like I don't know, deer in the headlights or the bright and shiny objects. And yet, again, your resolve is going to be to rein it in toward the middle, latter part of the year of a 5 personal year, where there can be some very substantial changes in your life. So the goal here is to explore how to face fears and be open and receptive to some dramatic changes in your life. So just ponder that for a moment. So 9 universal year and the 5 personal year, I would just say kind of hang on for the ride. Really dramatic changes times 10 for those of you in year 5. Now, of course, the other aspect here is that there can be a lot of fear. There can be a lot of limitation during this year, a lot of feelings of confinement, a lack of freedom, restriction, all of those things that are going to be pulling and pushing at you and asking you to step into your more expansive levels of existence rather than retract. But know that that's going to be a tension point in a 5 personal year. So the upside is it is a great time to explore, follow your curiosity. It's always a good time for traveling, shaking things up, saying yes, all of those things, and yet be open to some pretty substantial dramatic changes toward the end of the year for you. You could feel a little queasy, but I will say that usually the 5 are always the 5 if you're riding that wave. It's like you look at the beginning of your 5 personal year, and then you look at the end and you're like, oh my gosh, I would have never been able to guess in a million years that this would be where I am. So you have that to look forward to. All right. Number 6, personal year. It's a time to, after all that freedom fun, shaking it up of the 5. Now it's time to kind of get responsible, okay? Evaluate your relationships and take on some responsibilities, or modulate your sense of responsibility depending on who you are in the responsibility realm. So it is all about responsibility, relationships, feeling at home. It is a should I stay or should I go, or should it stay or should it go year of evaluation. And that goes primarily between you, yourself, and you. It's like, who am I now? What am I doing? How are my relationships? And how is my relationship with the most important person in my life, which is me? So that is the key, the touch tone, the key element is a reflective time to look at yourself, and then it's going to reverberate out into all of your other relationships, friends, family, colleagues, all the things that you're going to be evaluating and re-evaluating. The goal is to get serious about how you love and how you want to be loved in return. It has a similar quality to the 2 personal year, but it's more about the responsibilities and it's more about love and marriage overall. So, and it's about where you feel at home. Where do you feel at home? So a 9 universal year with a 6 personal year, it is a kind of an interesting one, I find, for those of you in your 6 personal year, because overall it is a relationship-oriented time, and yet the energy of the 6 is also quite idealistic, justice-seeking. We've got that energy of the 9 that is pulling us into that humanitarian calling, right? The good for all. How do we make a dent in this? How do we serve in some way? The 6 is all about duty and service and serving those, that kind of those dynamics. And so it can really show up in an interesting way. I will be interested to hear all my 6 personal year folks and discuss with them what's really going on with them in this 9 universal year, because it can take you in a variety of ways. And it depends on who you are in terms of your numerology chart overall. But the 6 personal year, personal evaluation. The 6 is also in numerology known as the marriage and divorce number. And don't let that scare you or anything else. It's just a matter of, is this functioning, and do we want to commit and devote and up level it and enrich and enliven these relationships, or are they in trouble? And how do we navigate that? So those are other things that are going to come into play in a 6 personal year. So the upside is that self-care is highlighted. It's a great year to get to know you and your true values. And the challenge is going to be in feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. Both the 9 and the 6 are very dutiful and very service-oriented, and you can feel that doubly in a 6 personal year. All right, the 7 personal year, it's a year to pause, probe those deepest parts of yourself. Again, a year to develop that right state of mind. To use that quote again from Juno Jordan, inner work, knowledge gathering, digging deep, looking at all the shadows, right, in our own world, our own psyche. And this is a really interesting year for everyone. It's kind of, the question is, would the real me please stand up? And it's a deep digging, deep digestive, percolative, slow moving time. And it's a time to look below the surface and reveal how to step into your next level of personal growth and spiritual growth. And it's always connected. I feel, at all times, but particularly in a 7 personal year. So the 9 universal year and the 7 personal year, like it or not, really, this is a spiritually activating year on steroids. I mean, can't get much more spiritually activating than this year for you all, for y'all. So it's a time to really dive into your individual shadows, but the backdrop here is going to be that humanity's kind of doing their same thing. They're, if push comes to shove, right, revealing their collective, or our collective, shadow sides. So it's one of those years where if you don't come out a changed person, I don't know. It's a pretty intense year of beautiful opportunities for expanding your spiritual pathway in life. So the upside is you will leave the year changed at your core, I do believe. And the challenge is going to be in staying the course rather than avoiding or detouring around that inner work. So the 8 personal year, it is the start of a 3-year push time for you, all of you in that 8 personal year. It is money and empowerment boot camp. It's all about financial growth or loss or back and forth, all the above. It's about personal empowerment. It's about endurance, How can I empower myself on every level is the question that is being asked during this year. And the goal is to take yourself seriously, right? Take yourself seriously and get your financial life and just your life under control and step into your power. Um, Always sounds so easy, doesn't it? I say with a slight note of sarcasm. And so how is this going to show up with the 9 universal year? So the 8 year always supports taking action around your empowered sense of purpose. And the 9 is going to bring in an added layer of what are your true values, right? What are your ethical standards? Who are you, why were you born, right? And are at this place in this time and place on planet Earth in this lifetime. I mean, it's going to be that serious of a question that you get to ask yourself. So the upside here is that you can be a powerful catalyst right now. For those of you who are feeling very empowered in your life already, this is a time for you to use that power, use the influence, use all of that to do something for the greater good, to do something within the realm of that 9, right? How do you want to, is there a legacy that you want to leave? And what is it? And this might be the year to really, really jump into that. You can really, really exert a lot of positive influence and power in a catalytic way for the good. And remember, you could do it for the opposite. You could do it on the other spectrum. You could do it for self-interest. You could be in that oppositional. So it pull. So you can be just reminded that is going to be a tension point during your 8 personal year, during a 9 universal year. The challenge can be stepping up. Stepping up to that challenge can be pretty intense. And if you're feeling a little shaky as you're entering into your 8 personal year anyway, it's going to take some endurance and resolve as you walk your way through it. But I'm telling you, the 8 is a fantastic time to really, really take yourself seriously in every way. From if you need to check yourself into rehab, or if you need to, take that investor on and expand your enterprises. I mean, and everything in between, right? So the 9 personal year. It's the end of a transition. It's end of, this big cycle that we've been talking about pretty incessantly here. The end of the 9-year cycle, it is transition, it is transformation, it is wrapping things up, letting go, making room for the new. So the question here is always going to be, how can I let go of everything I no longer need in order to make room for change to enter, for positive changes? And the goal is to allow these things to fall away in order to step into this new and exciting phase. The issue with the 9 personal year is it can be a time where dreams come true, where they manifest because you're willing to let go of anything and everything that is no longer valid and serving a purpose for you. On the other side of that fence, it can be a time where we're really absolutely fearful and hanging on to the known bad thing, just because we don't want to deal with an unknown bad thing. It's like we can catastrophize everything that we're thinking about. And the biggest issue is that we're asked to sit in silence for a moment, sit in a liminal space. We're asked to let things go and then not bring something in immediately to take its place. It's kind of like clearing out and cleaning out your closet and getting rid of all the clothes that you no longer fit you, that aren't in style, that you don't want. So now you have 2 pairs of pants, 2 tops, and 2 pairs of shoes. And you're asked to keep those as your only wardrobe for the rest of the year. And then you can go, yeah, what do I feel like now? What kind of, yeah, I want to buy this. I want to start filling my closet again. I want to, but be intentional about it, be mindful. I don't know if that's a great metaphor, but it is very similar. You don't want to just bring things in a 9 personal year. You want to let things go. And needless to say, but I'll say it anyway, the 9 universal year with the 9 personal year, it really is a double whammy. It is packing a punch. And I will just make this numerological observation as well. If you are in a 9 universal year, in a 9 personal year, this means that your birth date is throughout life. You are always in the personal year that is the identical universal year. So not only does this happen for you in the 9 personal year where you double down on the 9 and the 9, this happens through 1 through 9. So whenever you're in a 1 personal year, it's a 1 universal year and on and on. So think about that and think, oh, that might explain a few things about my life and about how intense things feel maybe for you. So anyway, that was a little sidebar for those of you who are in a 9 universal and then a 9 personal year together. There's no turning back here, though. This is a year to shed it all. And all of you who have maybe a 9 life path or have significant placements of 9s in your core numbers. For instance, I have a 9 maturity number. And it's, I can feel the resonance there. So it's really fun to look at your full chart also and to see where some of these numbers come up and how it might play out for you, or how you might put it into, conceptualize that and use that as some powerful insight for you and for your life. So this is a year to let it all go. And this can be at this point in our global consciousness, it's about your identity. It's about beliefs. It's all this mystical, magical point of transition and transformation, as long as you're willing to follow the lead of the universe and trust it and be open to that. So the upside is it is a rather magnificent opportunity to make dramatic and necessary changes. Okay, do it, do it, do it. And the challenge is hanging on and not doing it and being very fearful. But I'll just tell you now, it's going to be an emotional year, and just embrace it. Embrace that the emotionality of the year, because it can be very powerful, very regenerating, very healing, and very cleansing. So